Creation is always better than imitation. While it is easier to take an existing model and improve from it, this will not make you the next big thing in business. To be the next big thing, you must take the more difficult path of starting from scratch and building your own model. This is what Bill Gates, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Mark Zuckerberg have in common. They had the courage to take the less traveled road and created something new, fresh, innovative, and most of all, useful and valuable. This led them to be among the few people who changed the face of business and in doing so, improved people's lives. This should also be the aim of every individual who wishes to enter into this landscape to create something new rather than merely improve on what is already there. However, knowing how diverse the field of business is nowadays, it is understandable if you think that there is nothing more you can invent or make or manufacture. Finding something new to introduce to the market could seem to be an impossible feat. This thinking is, however, inaccurate. In this day and age, nothing is impossible because technology bridges the gap between impossible to possible. Technology allows us to do more than we can ever imagine. Fortunately, in all the creatures that wander this earth, only humans are capable of taking advantage of technology. Only humans can use technology to create something that could hopefully make this world a better place to live in. This book was written to aid those who want to create rather than imitate or improve on something that already exists. However, this book does not have a formula to instant success. In business, there is no such formula. However, this book will help you understand that all successful people share one attitude towards business. They think of business not as a result of formulas, but as something that arises from the firm foundation of the basic principles, which principles will be thoughtfully discussed in this book, bolstered by real-life success stories. The contents of this book is mostly from the author's lectures in Stanford in 2012 with the help of one of his students named Blake Masters, who painstakingly took notes of these lectures, initially without the intention of making those notes as a basis for a book. When the author was teaching, he noticed that his students already had mastery in so many subjects, and so he took it as a challenge to teach them and give them the ability to use this aptitude in practice, with the hopes that the search for a brighter future will not only happen in Stanford or in Silicon Valley, but in all parts of the world where an inspired soul could be found. The future could start anywhere in the world, if only more people will be courageous enough to decide to create. The challenge of the future. The author loves to ask this question whenever he does job interviews. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? He asks this question because he believes that a good answer to this question must not only take into consideration the present, but must be something that looks into the future. The future is a collection of moments that are yet to happen. However, what makes the future more distinctive is the thought that someday the world will look different from how it looks today. What will happen in the future is something that nobody can predict. All we know is that in the future, things will be different, and whatever will happen will depend on what is happening in today's world. If we think of the future, we share the same hopes that there will be progress. Progress, however, has two kinds, the horizontal or extensive progress and the vertical or intensive progress. Horizontal or extensive progress means recreating what has already been done before. Graphically, it is a horizontal line from one to end. The other word that could best describe this is globalization, and the most apt model of this kind of progress is the People's Republic of China. China has long shifted its focus on imitating what works in other countries and manufacturing these in large numbers to be distributed not only within their country, but also to be exported in different parts of the world. Vertical or intensive progress, on the other hand, means creating something that is new and innovative. Graphically, it is a vertical line from 0 to 1. And this kind of progress can also be called as technology. Technology basically means something new or a better way of doing something. Based on the above discussion, progress can therefore be classified into two, globalization and technology, And since these two concepts are different from each other, both kinds of progress can happen at the same time. It is also possible that none will occur or that only one will happen. Going back to the question the author asks during job interviews, what important truth do very few people agree with you on? To this question, the author offers his personal answer. He thinks that technology is more important than globalization. The author argues that if China continues its globalization efforts without investing on new technology, there will come a time that they will have to face irreparable environmental damage, the beginning of which is already being suffered by them today. In this world of limited resources, globalization without technology will not lead to progress, but to catastrophic devastation. We only need to look back at history to know that technology is more important than globalization. For many years of primitive agricultural practices, the world only saw progress when technology in the form of the steam engine took center stage. As a result, the following years reaped higher land productivity among others. Using this as a microscopic example, it is thus the challenge to the present generation to think of and create new technologies that could hopefully lead the world to genuine progress. New technologies come from startups. However, the challenge of creating new ventures is knowing how to effectively do it. The dilemma comes in deciding whether to do it by yourself or with a group. The danger of doing a new technology solo is that one person might not be capable of initializing an entire industry alone. However, if too many people are involved, the work tends to move slowly, and the interest of one sometimes clashes with that of the others, thus resulting to conflicts. The most ideal group, therefore, is that composed of a manageable number that you can convince to work together to achieve a goal. This book will aid you in answering basic questions about starting up. This book will, however, not give you straight answers, but points to ponder that will help you in exercising sound thinking and decision-making. Party like it's 1999. The first step to thinking clearly is to question what you think you already know about the past. It is only through understanding what happened before and learning from the mistakes done that one can make a concrete plan for a startup. Let us take the dot-com boom and bust that happened in the 90s as an example. By learning and understanding how and why it happened, you can derive various lessons of what to do and what not to do that could guide you in starting your own business venture. The dot-com boom was short but intense. It delivered tons of money to the people in Silicon Valley, and while it was good, it felt like it was never going to end. But of course, we all know now that it eventually ended. It started sometime in September 1998 and ended about March of 2000. During its glory days, everybody was willing to risk almost everything just to have a piece of the dot-com glory. Although it was already apparent to those people that the business was unsustainable and that it will eventually crash. However, while it was good, all doubts were cast aside and swept under the rug. This attitude towards business continued until it did crash, to the prejudice of millions of investors. When the market collapsed, everyone knew that they all had it coming. The busting of the dot-com bubble was the reason why people went back from technology to globalization. This event made them think that it was unwise to do something new, thus deciding to create what was already existing at the time instead. Those who experienced the crash firsthand learned 4 valuable lessons that are still applied by many today. First, they learned that small, incremental steps are the safest way to move forward, and those who promise something greater than that must be considered with caution. Second, they learned to be more flexible. Overplanning was considered an enemy, as business or entrepreneurship must be a constant experimentation in order to succeed. Third, they learned that it was not beneficial to create a new market. It is safer to start on existing customers and work around that. Lastly, they learned to focus more on the product rather than on sales. They realized that advertising is a waste of time, money, and effort, and that ultimately, technology is not about distribution, but about product development. However, The author submits that people had a mistaken view on what happened during the dot-com bust. He even thinks that the opposite of the foregoing lessons could probably be more correct and must be followed by people who want to start and succeed in business. Contrary to the foregoing lessons, the author thinks that 1. It is better to risk boldness than triviality. A bad plan is better than no plan. Competitive markets destroy profits, and sales matter just as much as products. He thinks that while it is true that the dot-com boom and bust was a moment of clear insanity, it was also a period of clarity. It was a period when people thought about the future and realized that the human race needed technology. More importantly, it was the time when people realized that they are capable of making technology. At present, we need more people like that. We need more people to realize that the world needs more technological advancements. We need people who are courageous enough to ignore the lessons learned after the dot-com crash and proceed into starting up businesses that aim to create rather than just recreate. All happy companies are different. Economists explain why Google earned more than all airline companies in the U.S. combined through the concepts of perfect competition and monopoly. Perfect competition happens when producers' supply perfectly meets consumers' demands. In this setup, no one supplier has the market power and thus cannot dictate the product's price. When more suppliers of the same product enter the market, but the demand for said product remains the same, the eventual result is the decrease in prices. Decrease in price also means decrease in profit. This will force some of the suppliers to cave in and go out of the market until the equilibrium is once again achieved. Under this setup, no company will eventually make an economic profit. Monopoly, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. In this setup, a lone supplier owns the market. Since it has no competition, it can set its own prices and can produce at the quantity that one maximizes its profits. A company can monopolize the market through various means: legal and illegal, moral and immoral. In this book, we will only tackle about those companies that were able to monopolize a market because they were so good and efficient that no other company came close. A good example of this company is Google. Google is so good at what it does that even if there were competitors, it can still be considered as a monopoly. Most aim for a perfectly competitive society because people are led to believe that competition is capitalism and capitalism is the opposite of socialism. This is incorrect. Competition is not synonymous to capitalism, as the latter means the accumulation of capital, while the former leads to profits being competed away. Lack of profit is not only the downside of perfect competition. Stiff competition leads business owners to lower their prices. In order to make up for the lost income, however, they have to decrease people's wages or have their families work for them for free. However, in monopolies, since they do not have to compete with anybody, they can maximize their profits in that they have a full control over their prices and quantity of production. In consequence, they can likewise afford to be generous to their workers. In perfect competition, money is everything. In monopolies, money is important, but they can think of other things like employees' welfare or charitable endeavors, without having to fear of incurring more expenses. The only danger of monopolies is that they have the unbridled freedom to increase their prices, since customers have no other choice but to buy their product. This is the reason why monopolies have a seemingly bad reputation. What will counter this, however, is if monopolies become creative monopolies. This means that they do not actually limit people's choices, but in fact give them more choices as they create new things or new ways to do things. Therefore, creative monopolies are effective engines of progress, contrary to popular belief. Only monopolies have the luxury to innovate because those who are stuck in competition are only focused on raking in profits to survive. Creative monopolies must thus be encouraged rather than discouraged. The ideology of competition. Creative monopoly means maximization of profits, while competition means a constant struggle to survive with very minimal monetary returns. It is thus absurd why people tend to strive for perfect competition rather than monopoly. Probably the world's obsession over competition is brought about by the ideology of competition that was taught to us growing up. We were trained to ignore the downsides and just focus on the alleged advantages of competition. This is also the reason why monopoly has been tagged with a bad connotation. Competition, in its general sense, has been a major part of people's everyday life. It is present in all human activities. It is present inside the homes, in academic institutions, and in workplaces. In fact, we are all so trained to compete that we thrive under this kind of pressure to the point of destroying our own humanity just to win. In business, competition is ever more present. Businessmen look at the arena as a war zone. In the end, they only end up destroying each other and themselves. The question now is, despite its destructive nature, why do people compete with each other? Marx and Shakespeare gave two varying views. For Marx, competition is caused by the differences between individuals. The bigger the differences are, the greater the resulting conflict is. On the contrary, Shakespeare posits that men are more alike than different. Therefore, there is no plausible reason for men to fight. But if they still do, they will later realize that they are growing more the same as their conflicts escalate. By the end, they would be slapped by the reality that nobody really won. This is exactly what happened to Google and Microsoft. They were too involved in the unnecessary competition they created for themselves that they lost sight of what's more important. While they were busy competing with each other, a new company, Apple, was also busy innovating. That's when it introduced itself to the market, it overtook both Google and Microsoft immensely. This is why rivalry can cause. In the beginning, it gives one satisfaction for winning, but in the long run, both competitors lose. There is a certain kind of gallantry in fighting, even for things that do not matter. This is part of human nature to fight for no significant reason at all. This, however, must not be applied in business. In business, people must learn to choose their battles and must not lose sight of why they entered into the business world in the first place. A lessened atmosphere of competition will only encourage people to innovate, but it will also ensure profit and business longevity. Last mover advantage. Now that we are settled that creating monopoly is better than competition, the next important thing to know is how to build a resilient monopoly. Let's take the case of the New York Times Company and Twitter as an example. Both companies give their readers a way to read news. In 2012, New York Times Company earned $133 million, while Twitter lost a lot of money. Despite this, however, when Twitter went public in 2013, more people invested on Twitter than New York Times Company. The reason behind the high premium on Twitter, despite its losing money the previous year, is the investors' belief that Twitter has more capability to earn money in the future. That has become the measure of a good business nowadays, its ability to earn money in the future. Old economy businesses like newspapers and restaurants could earn a lot of money in their first years. However, since these businesses have close substitutes, they will eventually see their profits competed away through the years. Technology companies, on the other hand, are different. They tend to lose money in the beginning and would, in fact, have to wait for 10 to 15 years before they can realize revenues. This is the reason why only a few thrive in technology business. Most are impatient and prefer to value their company on its weekly performances rather than its potential growth in the future. This is, however, a mistaken way of looking at business because a business owner's main concern must not just be its daily profits, but whether or not the business will still be operating after a decade or so. In building a durable creative monopoly, therefore, one must consider the following characteristics. 1. Proprietary technology. The ultimate goal of every business should be to have a product that is difficult to replicate. Their product must be at least 10 times better than its close substitute in order for them to have a genuine monopolistic advantage. The surest way to have genuine monopolistic advantage is to create something new or radically develop an already existing product or solution. 2. Network effects. Your product will be more valuable once more people use it. To ensure this, you must make your product valuable to its first consumers. If you are successful at convincing your first consumers of your product's value, it will have a ripple effect to other people. 3. Economies of scale. Monopolies gain more profit as the business gets bigger because the fixed cost of producing the product is spread to the bigger quantities of sale. In order to achieve this, the potential of having great economies of scale must be built in the initial design of the business or the product or service being offered. 4. Branding. Having a strong brand is an important part in claiming a monopoly. A good example of this is Apple. Part of Apple's success of being the leading brand in its line of business is because of its impeccable advertising endeavors. Everything is thought out, from the unique design of its gadgets to its minimalistic designed stores. Their price positioning, among others, have led them to be considered as a premium product, thus desirable for consumers. However, it must be noted that branding must come after the quality of the product. Branding alone is not enough. The foregoing characteristics, when thoughtfully considered, will make building a creative monopoly more fulfilling. In addition, in order to ensure that consideration of the foregoing will work for your benefit, you must likewise be able to choose your market carefully and expand deliberately. In choosing your market, you must first start with a small one. A small market is easier to dominate. Once you already established a firm footing on that small market, start expanding gradually to broader adjacent markets. This gradual expansion requires discipline and patience, but most successful businesses will tell you that this is the safest and surest way to go. Lastly, it is also best to keep in mind that the first mover advantage is just a tactic and not a goal. The first mover advantage, which simply means that if you are the first to enter into a market, you can get more market share while possible competitors are still trying to get started, is not enough to effectively claim a monopoly. It is more important that you work on the potential of your product to earn money in the future. Thus, you have to make the last great development so that when another player comes along, it wouldn't find it difficult to unseat you. This is why in business, the last will be first. You are not a lottery ticket. Is success in business a work of luck or skill? This has been a major topic of debate, and settling this question is not made easier by the difference in opinion of some successful people. Some say that their success is a product of lucky breaks and chances, while some posits that their success is by no way a result of accident but talent and hard work. A careful review of history and a simple dissection of the world's creative monopolies today, however, will lead us to the conclusion that having a good and resilient plan for your business is always better than leaving it all up to chance. Startups with intelligent business designs are most likely to withstand the challenges in business compared to those who have no such plan at all. This is the lesson of the life of one successful innovator, Steve Jobs. Jobs designed his business in a way that it ensured its success even years after his death. Apple, as a company, made a masterfully executed definite multi-year plan that is still in place up to the present. They left nothing to chance. By taking the foregoing as an example, it is best for those who are planning to start a business venture to imagine a definite future and make a plan that leads the company to that future. A business with a good, well-thought-out, comprehensive, and realistic plan always ends up better than those who see the future as random and thus do not believe that they have the power to shape their future. Starting a business is not an easy feat, especially when you are aiming to claim monopoly of the market. An important task as this must thus not be left to luck or random chances. Even successful businessmen who claim that their success are products of good luck and opportune chances have shed blood, tears, and sweat to be where they are today. If luck has a hand in it, it is so minimal that it can be neglected. The greater part of any success story, however, has something to do with having a clear vision, a clear plan to achieve this vision, a willingness to work hard to do this. Remember, you are not a lottery ticket. Follow the money. Venture capitalism is a process through which people identify, fund, and profit from companies started by other people. They do this by investing their money to fund the company with the expectation that they will have a share from its profits in the future. The crucial part of this process is choosing the right company to invest in, especially keeping in mind that most startup companies fail. Therefore, it is most wise to invest only in companies that have the potential to return the full amount of money you invested. Knowing what companies have the potential to succeed in the future is a difficult task. Even seasoned venture capitalists still make one or two wrong investment decisions because nobody can really tell whether a startup company will succeed or fail. This is the reason why investors are encouraged to diversify and not put all of their money in one place. That way, they decrease the risk of losing all their money on a bad investment. This strategy is not applicable in starting a business, however. One cannot open and manage 10 businesses in the hopes that at least one of them will succeed. In starting a business, there must be singularity in most things. You must start with just one market, as was discussed above, and use one distribution strategy, as will be discussed further in the next chapters. It is important that you understand the power law in order to make wise decisions, not just as an investor, but as an entrepreneur who is starting a business and aiming to be a creative monopoly. Secrets. Everything in this world was once unknown until one person takes interest and works hard to discover it. This is true even to business. Nobody knows yet what business is valuable and is not yet discovered. The answer to that is still a secret until someone finally does it and succeeds. The goal, therefore, is to discover that secret and build it. The roadblock to reaching this goal is the wrong thinking that there is no more secrets in this world and that everything has already been discovered. Most people today has this thinking, probably because of incrementalism or because people are afraid of secrets because they are afraid of finding out that they have been wrong all along, or because they have already gone complacent of what they already know, that risking to lose everything just to find something new is not an attractive idea, or because of the fear that somebody out there has already discovered what you are still looking for. These mentalities are the antithesis to establishing a creative monopoly. A creative monopoly starts from an idea or an innovation that is not yet known, but is not impossible to discover. Therefore, believing that there are still secrets in the world to be discovered is just the first step. It must be followed by the effort of actually looking for it. Secrets will only be discovered by those who are relentlessly looking for them. The best places to look for secrets are those where nobody is looking. When something is difficult to discover but not impossible, that is surely a secret you want to know. Keep digging until you find it, and when you find it, clearly think what you are going to do with it. The first thing to consider once you already know a secret is whether or not you will share it to anybody or just keep it to yourself. The answer to this depends on the kind of secret you know, as there are secrets that are best shared with others, and there are secrets that are safest to keep to yourself. Once you decide to share your secret to other people, your next consideration is with whom you share it. You must consider the number and quality of people you share your secrets with, because if shared with the wrong ones, your company might not even see the light of day. Therefore, should you decide to share it with other people, choose only those who share the same goals as you, people who will genuinely help you in developing your idea into a successful creative monopoly. Nevertheless, no matter what you decide to do with the secrets you discovered, the most important thing is to decide to look for them in the first place. In this time and age, where everybody seems to have already been discovered, you will be surprised to know that there are still paths nobody has taken. Take those paths. Foundations. Every successful enterprise has different stories, but they share one thing in common. They have strong business foundations, which is the reason that they were able to withstand the test of time. Therefore, every business should start good and strong. Decisions made early in the life of a business will determine its success and longevity. Bad decisions made will find their way of catching up, and you will soon realize that it will be too late to rectify the damage. Like a house, you cannot expect to build a strong business on weak foundations. The very first decision you have to carefully make in starting a business is choosing the person or persons you will start it with. Think of it like marriage and how nasty getting a divorce can get. If you fail to get a good partner, it is the company that will suffer in the end. In order for a team to work, each member must push on to achieve a common goal. Vested interest must be in existence, as the welfare of the company should always be the priority. Once you have chosen who to start your business with, the next decision you have to make with them is the structure of management. You have to know who legally owns the company, who manages the company on a daily basis, and who makes the more important decisions as regards the company affairs. This way, you may be able to decrease the chance of your having conflict with your partners in the future. It could be helpful to note that in managing a business, less is more. Communication between members is easier if there are fewer people to talk to. Most startup companies begin with 3 members in the board. Another factor that you have to carefully consider is compensation. Remember that a person works better if he feels that he is well compensated. A high pay, giving a person incentive to work harder for the company and to rectify any problem that threatens the company and thus also threatens his financial well-being. However, you must be able to find imbalance between giving too much and giving too little. Super high salaries tend to discourage people from striving more for the company since they are already contented with what they are receiving. You must also give the people something to look forward to as a reward for hard work. An alternative for giving cash as incentive is to give your people part ownership of the company. This will encourage them to work harder since the company's success would also mean their personal success. Owning a portion of the company shifts their focus from just surviving on a daily basis to making sure that the company survives the next decade or so. This is also a way for you to measure your people's business aptitude. Those who prefer having equity than monetary compensation are usually more goal-oriented and are focused on the long-term success of the business. That is the kind of people you want on your team. All these considered, a startup company must not be afraid of beginnings. Beginnings are the most crucial, but also the most exciting, since it is when creation happens. If you get this moment right, the most difficult part is done and over with. The mechanics of mafia. Company culture is important. Nowadays, especially in Silicon Valley, company culture means unlimited coffee, ping pong tables in the workplace, a free massage that can be had at any time of the day, a space for furry pets that are intended for employees distressing, among others. Unfortunately, all these perks are insignificant without substantial benefits. No matter how carefree you keep your workplace, if they see no long-term benefit from your company, they will eventually leave. Company culture must thus be beyond all these perks. It must be, first and foremost, about a group of people on a mission. In creating your team, you must hire people who will not only work for the money, but who will also work because they love their job. They must be talented, and at the same time, they must find happiness and fulfillment in what they do. This could seem an easy task, but it will turn out more difficult than you expect. Recruitment is one of the hardest parts of startups, and its impact on the company is so extensive that it must be done with full commitment. In recruiting, you must keep in mind that the best ones are the most difficult to get because, since they are so good, they have numerous employment options. In order to hire them, you must therefore convince them that your mission is valuable and that you are doing something important. In addition, you must also be able to convince them that his attitude and competency is most compatible with your company. Most of all, do not lure them with perks such as free laundry or free pet care. People who can be lured with this kind of perks will turn out to not be good additions to your company. Instead, convince them that the work they are going to be doing will be valuable not only to the company but to the society as well. Those who will be convinced by that are the ones you want in your team. Once you've hired your pool of people, the next difficult task is work assignment. In this specific endeavor, you must keep in mind that work assignment will not only define your workers' relationship with your company, but likewise their relationship with each other. Most often than not, conflicts between employees are caused by competition, especially when they are assigned to do the same task. This is the same reason that you have to eliminate competition by clearly defining each person's job description and making sure that their responsibilities do not overlap with each other. You do this in order to maintain peace in the workplace. Startups usually crumble when there is no internal peace. It is thus safe to say that startup companies must hire fanatics in order to survive. Fanatics not in the sense of being destructive, but in the sense of being focused on a goal. Each member of the team must be willing to contribute to achieve that goal. In this sense, startup companies must liken themselves to cults or mafias. If you build it, will they come? After discovering what product or service your business will provide and deciding who will start your business with and the people who will compose your first pool of employees, the next thing you have to consider is how to inform the public about your product. Making and producing a product will not automatically draw in customers. This is the point where you have to consider advertising, marketing, and sales. People who build the products are somewhat skeptical against salesmen. They think they are unnecessary in the success of the business. This is where they are wrong. Though building or developing the product is the starting point of a business, without initiative to introduce this product to the market, the business will eventually fail. If one has invented something new but hasn't found an effective way to sell it, no matter how good the product is, the business will eventually succumb to business challenges. The work of a salesman is not easy. It takes talent, skill, and a whole lot of patience and perseverance. People tend to downplay salesmen's roles, probably because of a bad experience with an ineffective salesman before. But not all salesmen are the same. There are experts who do their jobs with such finesse and expertise. The rule of thumb in distribution is that the net profit you earn from a customer must exceed your expenses in getting another customer. This could be a challenging feat, especially for startup companies. However, it has been proved that this kind of strategy is doable. In fact, this strategy could be done even without hiring a salesman. The CEO of Planeter, a data analytics company, decided not to hire someone to do its marketing for him. What he does is he spends 25 days a month traveling to meet with clients and potential clients to talk about the service provided by the company. This worked for Planeter well if we base it on its current financial status. Choosing the perfect advertising strategy also depends on the product or service being sold. Low-priced products that are intended for mass distribution, for example, can use television commercials and advertisements in newspapers to reach a wider audience without having to hire people to talk to these people one by one. This must, however, be availed of with caution by startup companies. There is also this kind of advertising called viral advertising. It is a way through which you can use current customers to encourage other people to use the products as well. This is the strategy used by Facebook and PayPal. This strategy is cheaper and faster than the conventional means. These different kinds of advertisement can both work as they have worked for many businesses in the past. They can be used simultaneously, but this has to be thoughtfully made. Choosing one means of distribution and perfecting it is still the safest thing to do. Finally, this endeavor must not only cover the distribution of the product itself, but also the marketing and advertisement of your company to customers and potential investors. Your company must have a potential public relations strategy in order for people to know and admire your company. Man and medicine. Information technology has overcome almost all human activities. Computers have replaced humans in numerous activities, be it in the homes or in the workplace. Due to this, computers are expected to do even more in the future, which makes some to question whether people still have some use come that time. This thinking, however, is flawed. Computers are not substitutes for humans, but complements, and successful businesses are those who value human resources rather than looking forward to getting rid of them. Technologies are complements to humans and not substitutes because technology and human resource can do different things. Humans have the ability to formulate plans and make decisions, but are not so efficient in analyzing enormous data. Computers, on the other hand, are different. They are good at processing large amounts of data, but are incapable of making calls of judgment. Thus, basically, computers are made to do things that humans do not have the competency to do, and not to entirely replace them, as there are things that computers can do that they cannot. Understanding that computers are complements and not substitutes to humans is crucial in successful businesses. Finding the right balance of human and computer interaction in the workplace should ensure success, and this was proven in the case of many successful businesses such as PayPal and Planeter. Unfortunately, despite these real-life affirmations that humans and computers work together is the secret to a successful business, many still doubt as to whether computers can really replace human resource in the future. This is probably due to the fact that nobody really knows how far technology can advance in the next decade or so. This unknown thing leads most to fear that computers can really evolve into something so smart that it could someday do the impossible possible. Well, maybe it can, maybe it cannot. But this uncertainty must not stop us from taking advantage of technology and human ingenuity to try to build a world today. Seeing green. Clean technology was the goal of every business enterprise at the dawn of the 21st century. Everyone was hyper-aware of the environmental challenges faced by every nation in the world that they made it their goal to find a way where progress can continue without damaging the environment. Numerous clean technology companies were founded around that time, and even more investors let go of their money to support this cause. Unfortunately, almost all of these companies filed for bankruptcy in 2012. In short, the movement to cleanse the world failed. Most people think that clean technology companies failed because of the intervention of the government. However, what these people failed to see was the fact that from their inception, these clean technology companies were already doomed to fail. This is because these companies failed to consider all or any of the following questions. Can you create breakthrough technology instead of incremental improvements? Is now the right time to start the business? Are you starting with a big share of the small market? Do you have the right team? Do you have a way to not just create, but deliver your product? Will your market position be defensible 10 and 20 years into the future? Have you identified a unique opportunity that others don't see? As was discussed in the previous items, the answers to the foregoing questions can spell the success or failure of a business. Failure to consider one can cause one too many problems that could lead a business into closure. The problem with the clean technology companies was they were starting without even trying to answer any of the above-mentioned questions. They largely depended on luck. In addition, all these clean technology companies worked under the premise that they were not just a company business, but social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is a concept that was intended to mean the balance between profit motive and pursuing public interest. It was like a marriage of corporation and nonprofit organizations. The intention of social entrepreneurship is to find the best of both worlds through doing well by doing good. Unfortunately, most of these social entrepreneurs ended up not doing either. There is one company, however, who succeeded in promoting clean technology simply because they had a good answer to all 7 of the aforementioned questions. This is how they did it. Can you create breakthrough technology instead of incremental improvements? Yes, in fact, Tesla's technology is so good that almost all car companies majorly depends on it. Is now the right time to start the business? Yes, in 2010, Tesla was actually able to get a $465 million loan from the U.S. Department of Energy during the time when green technology was the priority of almost all branches of the government. Only Tesla was able to do that, and nobody else ever will. In the mid-2000s, a loan that big was beyond unthinkable as it is today. There was only one time when it was possible, and Tesla recognized this and grabbed the opportunity right then. Are you starting with a big share of the small market? Yes. Tesla started with a small market and dominated it. They only sold 3,000 units, but at a price that allowed them to do further research and development. This enabled them to expand their market, produce more advanced products, until they became the largest player in the luxury electric sedan market. Do you have the right team? Yes. Tesla's CEO is both an expert engineer and salesman, and he made sure that the members of his team are not far behind in terms of competency. Do you have a way to not just create, but deliver your product? Yes. Tesla took over their distribution initiatives by selling and servicing its vehicles in its own store. Tesla did not hire other people to deal their problems and products to the people. Instead, because they see this as an important factor in the success of their business, they did it themselves. Will your market position be defensible 10 and 20 years into the future? Yes. Tesla is a brand that everybody wants. This is primordially the reason why it's way ahead than its competitors. And with how they are going, it is logical to believe that they will be able to maintain their position in the next decade and beyond. 7. Have you identified a unique opportunity that others don't see? Yes. Tesla discovered that people prefer fashion over function. That is why they created cars that are fashionably cool, but still environmentally friendly. That was the secret they discovered, and they took advantage of it. That is why celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio replaced his Prius with an expensive-looking Tesla Roadster. Tesla's success story is just a confirmation that clean technology is not inherently bad as a business. In fact, the theory behind it is good, since nobody can no longer argue that environmental problems are just imaginary. We all know that we need clean technology. However, entrepreneurs and investors must not be overwhelmed with this idea, but must be smart in their every move. It is still a business after all. The Founder's Paradox. The founders of most of the successful creative monopolies in our world today cannot be described as normal. Most are high school dropouts. Some were seen by their colleagues as weird for having out-of-this-world ideas, and some are so withdrawn with the world that people see them to be living in their own world. This makes us think of whether one should be eccentric in order to become a founder of a successful company. Most founders are described to be not normal. If human nature could be graphed in a line, the founders could be found in the extreme ends of the spectrum. That is probably the reason why some describe founders to be strange. For example, a normal person cannot be rich and poor at the same time, but a founder can be poor in cash, but rich on paper. However, if this is an accurate depiction of founders, where do these characteristics come from? Some of it can be inborn, or can be from outside influences like the nature or nurture debate. However, it could also be that this reputation was just a product of cycle, which start from the people giving them a badge after badge of being strange or extreme. And then the founder just consciously or unconsciously embodies this badge until it becomes its way of life. Nevertheless, whether founders are indeed strange or not, the truth still remains that they introduced innovations in this world that most of the people of the world never even have thought of. Stagnation or singularity. We must live our everyday lives under the premise that the future will be different. It is only through this that we will realize that whatever we do today will define what kind of future this world will have. Also, by realizing that there will be changes, we will be cautioned that everything we do has an impact, positive or negative, to the world that we will have in this future. To do this, we must aim for singularity, since everything that is important to us is already singular: our world, our communities, our families, our lives. Our aim as a human race should therefore be to find singular solutions to make all these things better, to make progress work in our favor, and to ensure that the future will not be bleak but hopeful. We must aim to create. We must aim to go from 0 to 1. The initial step to look within and realize how important your role is the unfolding of the world's destiny. After which, you must look at the world with fresh eyes so you can see that there is more to be discovered, more secrets to be known, and more things to be created. And all these to be done for the purpose of making this world a better place to live in. The world is in our hands to recreate, improve, and preserve, and all we have to do is to start. In this world, there are so many things yet to be discovered, so many processes that are yet to be developed, and so many solutions to daily human problems that are yet to be formulated. All these are good starting points for a business. All one has to do is to look for these ideas, work on it, and build an empire around it. Many successful businesses started from a crazy idea. Some are even too crazy that people thought it would never find a place in the business arena. However, because most of the founders of these businesses are too stubborn to listen to other people's opinion, and even sometimes to reason, they continued to pursue their idea until one day they surprised both themselves and the world when their idea turned into a multi-billion-dollar company. This kind of success story is, however, not limited to people who have studied in Ivy League schools or those who have access to technology. Every person in this world with a playful imagination and a courageous heart can do it. They say that the most difficult part is to begin. Once you have made the first step, all the rest will be easy. With an idea or a product that you believe this world needs, start a company with people who share the same vision and ethics as yours. Seek the company and help of people who do not only believe in the potential of your product, but are also willing to contribute in the improvement of said product. After which, build a team of efficient workers and treat them well. Only after you have gathered a close-knit group of individuals that your business can go to the next step. The next step is to find a small market where you can introduce your product and do everything necessary to dominate said market. Once you do that, expanding to adjacent bigger markets will be easy. Next, think of a way on how to distribute your product. Invest in marketing and advertising. If you can, do the marketing yourself. It is only after your product is successfully introduced to the people that you can expect potential customers. Keep in mind that a good product is not enough. People will come only after you bring your product to them. Lastly, focus on the more important things. Aim to be a monopoly and make the betterment of the world as your ultimate goal. The future is inevitable, and whether it will be bad or good will depend on what we do today. It is therefore imperative that we focus our efforts into having a future that we can all be proud of.